Hello Giants fans, welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. The Giants played 2 games today. First they beat the White Sox 6-3 and then they lost to the Guardians 10-0. Sean Manaea started for the Giants in Game 1. He pitched 6 innings, allowed 1 run, so that's a lot more like what we need to see from Giants starters this year than what I was kind of the negative prediction I was making for Manaea. He's had his good and his bad days in spring training. In his last outing, he actually came in out of the bullpen. So if at the end of the day Manaea does make a good enough case for the rotation, then the Giants will have a decision to make between him and Jakob Junis at that 5th starter spot. I think that Alex Wood and Anthony DeSclafani will both go before either of them. And there's always the option of having a 6-man rotation. I just think that kind of takes starts away from Logan Webb and Ross Stripling, who we can kind of expect to be the best. So a 6-man rotation, I really don't see that as a good option for the Giants this year, based on the fact that, I mean, if their starters were more equal to each other and it was kind of like they're relying on each one equally, then I could see that. But the way things stand right now, it just doesn't seem to be a viable option to me to have a 6-man rotation. They're going to have to make a choice between Jakob Junis and Sean Manaea at 5th starter, and the other guy is going to have to pitch in a multi-inning roll out of the bullpen. And I don't know that necessarily has to just be blowout games either. It really depends on how the Giants choose to structure the rest of their roster, including their bullpen, and what they ultimately decide to do. So Manaea's performance was good, but Anthony DeSclafani's performance in the second game, you just can't say the same thing about it. He pitched 4 innings. He gave up 6 runs, which it's not good. And I wouldn't read too much into this. I think I'm a lot more concerned with whether DeSclafani is learning things and working on things with each start that he makes than what his numbers are going to look like exactly this spring training. And I'm glad that he did come back throwing hard and looking great and all that. So if there's any kind of a rebound he needs to make, it's best for him to make it in spring training. I think he is going to be at least decent, and we can hope for more than that, but at least decent for the Giants in 2023. Now in Game 1, going back there, Blake Sabol doubled again for the Giants. I think he's proved his case beyond a shadow of a doubt for the opening day roster. And there's room for him and Joey Bart. Bart can catch, Sabol can play left field, and you still save the DH spot for Jock Peterson. I really don't see any problem there. But seems like he's doing something every game. That's great. Casey Schmitt and Bryce Johnson also had singles, and Schmitt stole second base, which is good to see from him. And I know Johnson has really good speed, so these other 2 guys, definitely a good showing from them. Brandon Crawford's average is down. It's like 118, I think it was, after today when he had 5 at-bats without getting hit. So honestly, if the Giants prospects really prove that they belong, particularly in the infield, and that moves Crawford to the bench, then it's going to have to be that way. I really couldn't see it justified that Crawford would get a starting spot just because he's the Giants' longtime all-star. If his average is, and it's been a small sample for him, I'm not denying that, but based on the fact that his performance has declined over the years, I don't see him automatically getting that starting spot. If the Giants could better structure their infield with these prospects who not only need at-bats, but also can produce, immediate results. It's pretty clear. I'm not saying that Blake Sabol's performance he's a catcher and a left fielder. Can't talk about him in the infield, but okay, maybe with Casey Schmitt, I'm not saying his performance is going to be like this the whole of 2023, but it does seem like he can produce immediate results. And even if for some of these guys, even if honestly they start the season on hot streaks and then get cold and even have to be sent to the minors, the point is the Giants would probably at least be getting something out of that to help kick off a hot start to the season. Now, as I was just saying yesterday, consistency is going to be an issue. So I'm not saying it would turn out in the long run if that was all these prospects were able to give the Giants, but I'm just saying it's going to give them something if the Giants structure their roster the right way to be able to squeeze out as many runs from this offense as possible. So no guaranteed starting spot at shortstop for Brandon Crawford. If the Giants can get the guy out of their farm system that is at least anywhere maybe near to being what they would have been able to have if they had signed a free agent shortstop, then that's really, to me, the best way to go. Now in Game 2, after DeSclafani came out of the game, Tyler Rogers came in to give up 3 runs. Not too good of a day for him. But Cole Waits, he pitched a scoreless inning. I think Waits has a good chance of being on the opening day roster, and I certainly think that for him, the Giants should just look to see whether he's really earning that spot, whether he's deserving of it. And if so, there's got to be a way to carve it out for him on the opening day roster. I'm not saying there won't be significant competition up to the end of spring training, but honestly, it seems to me that there should be a way to have everybody on the opening day roster that should be there. It's a 26-man roster now. That's probably one of the things they had in mind when they changed that rule, and it's one of the few new rules that's been added to baseball recently that makes any sense or is any good. And therefore, it's just an extra opportunity from what the Giants would have had even 4 years ago. In fact, I think there was a 26-man roster 2 years ago, but yeah, so we'll say like 4 years ago, it's 25 men. So there's one extra spot, but I think just in any case, for most of the guys that should be on the roster, there are going to be opportunities. And honestly, I think the Giants shouldn't be afraid to have guys on the bench, even if that might not be the first choice of the role. Like, say, we went into the season and David VR had to be on the bench. Well, if that happened, is it the best thing? Well, no. I think VR has probably carved out a starting role, at least based on his performance last year. But what if he's outperformed by Casey Schmitt at third base? Then they might have to say it's the way it's got to be. And everybody goes with it. And they want to make sure to use him. I mean, nobody should be sitting on the bench game after game and not coming in, saying cold. That's not what I'm talking about. I just think there's a way for them to really get everybody onto the opening day roster that should be there, and to use the guys in starting roles that should be used in starting roles. So to sum things up, today for the Giants, it was a win and a loss. The Giants' record this spring training so far sits at 12-12. So it's tied, and ultimately it's not about how they finish spring training as a team, but how they really come through with individual players that can work together as a team and contribute for them on the field in 2023. But we do still want to see, as a team, at least what that would give you if they win games. It would be the raw ability to actually win games and not just score more runs than they allow, or just you do need to see kind of, not just on an individual level, but on a team level, you have to see whether a team is capable of winning games, and when they have cold streaks, you got to see what those weaknesses are. Sometimes it's the late innings, they can't do something. That's going to have diminished significance in spring training, since the point is having guys get their work in. We're not analyzing managerial decisions to see, should this pitcher have stayed in, should he have... No, we're not doing that at all. We're saying, how can we evaluate what we saw from each individual player? That's what we're saying. You can probably tell a little bit about the team in general, what its strengths and weaknesses are. And as much as we can infer about that in spring training, that's great, because it's going to be a thing this regular season. Can't say it's luck how they perform in one-run games. That never works out, because it isn't. Can't say it's luck how they perform in extra innings. No, these critical situations of the game. For a playoff contending team, that's not what you say. They got it. Their strengths are going to have to outweigh their weaknesses as a team. You can see that a little bit more as the roster gets narrowed down, yet you can't see that completely, because the goal is still for guys to get their work in. I mean, kind of, this isn't a perfect illustration, but kind of like it is in minor league baseball. That's what the Giants are trying to do right now. And you don't know when you see pitchers struggle like Anthony DeSclafani today. You don't know if that's real or if that's just he needs to shake the struggles out of him this spring training. You don't always know that. It's okay to be concerned about it. It's also good to remember the good that we saw from DeSclafani a little bit before. And you do notice in the lineup they're still making a lot of substitutions, which I probably don't expect to see that many in the regular season, except when guys just have to get work in, whether it's on the field or at the plate, and they can't sit cold on the bench. Then, just like I was just saying, that'd be really the time for it. But as of right now, we're just trying to see what we can see, and it's hard to really say what that is. But certainly the guys that are super hot, it's easy to prove, even though this is just spring training, it's easy, I think, to prove they belong on the team. And the guys whose batting averages are down, we're not saying they don't belong. Probably be saying that they don't deserve automatic starting roles if the Giants can find better options. So that's the way I'm looking at spring training. I'm paying attention to the team record. I'm also just seeing how the players are looking just in general, because the strategy of how to build the roster, that still, it has yet to unfold completely, and the Giants front office has yet to really put that to use, and they need to see a lot of these things here. I do definitely still think it's promising what we're seeing from a lot of the players, and I think that especially those three prospects we've been watching, Bryce Johnson, Blake Sabol, and Casey Schmitt. And Anthony DeSclafani's performance today, I think we just have to hope that it was a fluke and that his next start will be better and all that. I think that it was difficult for him to really rehab and get to where he was. I think we shouldn't take that for granted at all, where DeSclafani was, just throwing almost his hardest after he had just had ankle surgery. I think the way he rehabbed from that surgery and got back into work, I think that's just a great thing they did. Won't take that for granted, and we'll see how the rest of it turns up. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you haven't. Also, please leave your questions or comments in the comment section, and I'll try to answer any questions you might have. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.